to Act Now Live. It is Sunday at 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time where I am. Hi, Reg. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm great. How are you this Sunday?
Good, good. So we are super excited to introduce our guest. We're going to go right into it because I have so much to talk about her. And before she comes on, because she's going to probably make us talk about ourselves. And she is such a hoot. I cannot wait for you guys to meet her. But I actually, you know what? I'm going to bring her on. And so that she can kind of sit here and we're going to introduce her right away. This is Holly Dowling. Welcome, welcome.
I'm so excited. Hi.
Hi, Holly.
Oh, we're so excited to see you. Okay, so I wanted to bring her on just to kind of see her beautiful face. Holly was at the very same weekend for women that I met Reg. And so we were all there, I just kind of wanted to explain, some of this because, meeting Holly that particular weekend really helped me through self-worth. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is self-worth. And I wanted to tell the story about how I met Holly because I was in an area where, many of you guys heard me tell the story where I continued to walk into this weekend, as Reg knows, just saying I'm an audiologist, but I'm just an audiologist. And I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why I'm investing in myself. I'm going to put myself out there, but I'm going to show up. And so this weekend that we talk about so often because we've got so many amazing female friends and businesswomen that we met at that weekend. For me, it was one of those things where I remember sitting on the plane and we were given a lookbook and, there were about 25 women who were mentors there. And then there were other women who had businesses, were entrepreneurs, but they had asked us to maybe sign up to meet a mentor. And so I remember the very first day that it was time to sign up for a mentor. I kind of hung back because I thought, well, I'm a global ambassador. I'm kind of here to work, but at the same time, I'm just an audiologist, right? So again, this goes to my self-worth. And the executive director of the organization came up and said, what are you doing? Why aren't you up there signing for to meet somebody? And I was like, oh, because I'll just let all the other women go and it's no big deal. I'll just wait around. Whoever's left and has time, I'd be happy to sit down with. Like, I'm going to learn from anybody. And she goes, no, forget that. She said, who do you want to meet? And I was like, well, on the plane, I really recall that the person that I wanted to meet, her name is Holly Dowling. And she goes, okay, done. She's like, done. I'm going to make the call. I don't care if you don't make it to some of the sessions, but it sounds like she is heading out of town. But let me just figure this out. I'll be right back. So she comes back and she said, she is leaving in about a couple hours, but she's going to give you a half an hour. She's going to meet you in the lobby. Go. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't have any time to think about it. And I was thinking, I don't have any questions for her. I don't even know what I'm going to talk to her about. But oh my gosh, I get to meet Holly. And the one thing that I do remember about meeting Holly was that I knew that she had a plane to catch. But she sat down and she looked at me eye to eye and we sat there for however long that she was going to give me and however long I felt comfortable. I mean, I knew it. Not once did she look at her watch and she said, what can I do for you? What's on your mind? And we just sat and we talked. And I don't even remember how long it was. It might have been, 20 minutes. It might have been 30 minutes. I do recall other women saying, oh my gosh, she's still here. I'm going to wait in line because I'm going to talk with Holly. And Holly not once broke eye contact with me and she goes, I am here for you and this is we're doing this right now. And it was one of those things that where I was in my life during that weekend, I did believe a lot in myself of what I could do outside of audiology. And so meeting Holly, meeting Reg, meeting a lot of our other really amazing women that we met at that weekend, it really made me think about my self-worth. Like these women believe that I can be doing something else and they're going to pour themselves into me. The next biggest thing that happened with Holly was she had an elite retreat. And it's one of those things where I thought, oh my gosh, like, okay, I have to get over this mental, negative talk, but why would I go? Like, I don't consider myself elite. Like, why would I go? And she reached out and said, I really think you should come. I really think it's something that you would love. And I looked into it, ended up going, did not know a soul. And it was one of her first retreats. And, the things that I'm not going to go through the whole retreat, but the things that I really learned at that retreat and from Holly and the other ladies are a couple of things. Number one, I just feel like she taught me how to sit down and be quiet, to learn and to hear myself think. Because we had every morning, we had to sit down and journal and it's not even really journal. We could journal, but really she had a few things that she wanted us to do. And one of the biggest things was sit down and just be quiet for like 3 to 5 minutes. It wasn't even a long period of time, 3 to 5 minutes. Let your brain rest and talk to yourself. And again, me being the type A person, I know we laugh about this too. Leading up to the retreat, I thought, oh my gosh, there's no schedule. Like I need to have I'm freaking out. What do I pack? What am I supposed to do? And every time I reached out to Holly, she was just like tight-lipped. She would not share anything. And she goes, just trust me, So one of the things that I did have to learn about myself was to invest in myself, to stay quiet. The power, again, our first meeting, the one thing that she taught me was the power of giving somebody else your time and really giving someone else, learning about your self-worth because you're giving that person that time as well. So that's another thing that I learned from her. And then the last thing that I learned, and then we'll kind of go into her, but is that she really taught me to surround myself with the right people. And so this weekend, meeting people like Reg, meeting people like Holly that changed my life at this weekend, that I met them and then it continued to go on. You might not necessarily know what you're walking into. You might not feel comfortable, as you can tell. There are a lot of things that I didn't feel comfortable doing in those 2 different incidences, whether it was the women's weekend or the elite retreat. But when you surround yourself with the right people, I was definitely not surrounding myself with the right people, but the right people are going to pour themselves into you, really pull out what you can believe in yourself about, and then also continue to challenge you and have that accountability. So I have that with Reg, I have that with Holly and the Elite Retreat. We're still an amazing group that kind of checks in every so often with each other. It's just beautiful. So, again, long introduction, but I definitely wanted to introduce my dear friend, the dear friend of both of ours, actually. She's an inspirational speaker. She's high on the motivation level. As you can see when she starts to talk, you're going to notice that she just exudes wisdom. She will be dropping truth bombs left and right. She has a poster behind her head too. There's 2 posters I want to point out. The first one is her book, Hollyisms. And so she does have this book that she wrote, and I love it. It has all her inspirational sayings. And it's like, I do hear her every so often. Some of her most famous ones that she tells me all the time, tell me no, watch me go. Is one of the biggest ones. The other frame that she has, I love, is the Shiro frame that she has. And I love it for 2 things. Number one, it does remind me that, of course, her brother is a big Marvel actor. And that actually reminded me of Marvel. But at the same time, what she got an award, and she is a Shiro. And that, you can't see it very well, but it's a beautiful poster. And it has a lot of women that were highlighted and in some different, hero costumes and things like that. But she definitely is a Shiro to me. And so I wanted to introduce everybody to Holly. And we're so excited that you're here joining us on Act Now Live. So welcome.
I don't even know what to say. Really, Reg, right? Nobody told me Natalie was going to do an introduction like this. I'm just sitting here going, I don't know if my eyes are about to cry from pure gratitude and joy. And I just want to know, can you hit the road with me, Natalie? Because when things start traveling again, I think you give the most beautiful, gracious, you touched my heart and you touched my soul. Thank you, my love.
You're welcome.
It is an honor to be with the 2 of you and to have known both of you and to know how this relationship in business has been so divinely brought together that when you asked me to be on this, why would I even question? I didn't even blink. I was like, of course, because you're both about serving the world and making others feel better about themselves. So Thank you.
Aw,
Thank
we
you.
love having you. We love having you.
Yes,
So,
we do.
I know that I monopolized a lot of time, just introducing you, but I couldn't help it. But we do want you to introduce yourself to our listeners and to people tuning in, and just share us a little bit more about your story, and even your story about self-worth. And I know that you have some great stories to tell, but was it easy for you? I mean, you're a person that delivers keynote speeches on stage and helps motivate companies and corporations. And was it easy for you to get up there and be who you are right now, or did you struggle? And talk to us a little bit more about your life story. And let's start there.
Ooh, now, Natalie, how much time do we all have? Because
I don't care. I can stay with you forever.
Did you tell Reg, right? And I want everybody out there who has graciously taken time out of their Sunday or when they listen to this to know that what I want to share, and thank you for asking, we all have so many stories, right? And I think when we look back on our lives, I was just doing this with some clients the other day, and I said, we have what we call pivotal moments. And I would beg everyone to be thinking about this right now, especially during this time when we're spending a lot of time at home and juggling so much. I've had a lot of pivotal moments, Natalie, and those pivotal moments, some earlier in life, right? Some later. And not all pivotal moments have to be horrible, but I have had some extreme adversity. And here comes some of those. I love how you said, we're going to drop some cool wisdom, but it's really important to me to say this because I choose to not live in woe is me. I choose to live in wow is me. And I've been through enough dark places that it would have been really easy to stick myself in that ugly place and never believe in myself again, nor would I believe I could be anything worthy of enough to even come out of that space. So, I would want everybody to know, are you allowing the adversity in your life to make you bitter or better? Because right now we have a lot of stuff coming at us and we're all dealing with different things at different levels. And it's really easy to get bitter. But trust me when I say the adversity and some of those adverse things that some of which, Natalie knows some of those dark times, I literally look at that and go, it made me so much better, right, ladies? I mean, it makes the diamond in us begins to get refined. So do you let your trials and tribulations refine you or define you? And I am refusing to let them define me. And I don't know which story, Natalie, because you've been, some of the stuff, but I'll catch us up to speed because you said something that really sparked me. And first and foremost, I need to pause and say, that day we met, and I remember where we were in the lobby, and I was going to be leaving, and I remember seeing your beautiful face, and we sat there, and I'll never forget the sparkle in your eyes and this desire it wasn't about being more Natalie, it was about how can Natalie do more in this world. And I think that's an important distinction, that the reason you and Reg have this amazing business together, I think when you said align yourself with other like-minded, like-valued people, we need to constantly be doing that. And I've seen you just flourish. And before the retreat, after all of this. So it takes me to something you said. So, and I don't even know if you know this quite yet, Natalie, but it was right about 3 years ago. So after we met, that, and this might get me just a little bit emotional, but it was about 3 years ago that I was sharing one of my really dark stories with a group of women in a much smaller, more intimate type of experience. And somebody looked up to me and just said afterwards, they stood in line and they were like, I just need you to know that I would never have imagined when you walked in here that you would have ever been through something like that. Would you be willing to share that? I'm a journalist. Would you let me interview you?
Wow.
And I can look at both of you right now and everybody out there and tell you, I started to shake. I started to break a sweat. Even talking about it, I still got a little, right? Because that's what we do, the mental chatter. And I remember looking at her and saying, I'm not sure I'm ready. And she said, I think you are, because people need to hear this. And my first reaction, and this goes so much to self-worth, I said, why would anybody want to buy damaged goods if they knew my story? Isn't that what we all do? Right,
Yeah.
Natalie? Right, Reg?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And so it took some guts. It took some courage. It took a lot of faith. And I called my baby brother who's been through so much, and we're very close. And I told him what was They wanted to interview me, what was going to happen. And he said, without a doubt, it's time. You've waited a long time. And think of all the lives that might be healed and given hope.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was a huge leap of faith for me. And I want you to know that, and everybody, I'm not sitting here saying that was easy at all, but the aftermath, when we reveal, we even heal more. It's like this freedom. I'm getting goosebumps, but like layers, right? Like layers of stuff came off me. And I wanted to pull the article. Like the editor's like, we're not waiting 2 weeks. This is going to go out Monday. You guys should have seen me. I was like, no. That can't happen. No. This isn't going to happen. I'm not ready. I made every excuse. And then it was pull the plug. And that to me is the epitome of self-worth too, because to me, self-worth is an ongoing journey, and understanding and believing that even the dark stuff in us is what's made us beautiful as human beings and rich in character. So, I mean, I'm going on and on, but you triggered that.
I do remember that article, though. I do remember, because I think you shared it with us. And I remember the feeling, and you know what you said too is interesting, because you were already an international speaker and a motivator, and you know, even like you said, it continues as a journey, because it's not like it's done, you know, and there are still things that are going to happen to you, whether you make decisions or whether you choose to let it affect you the way it might have done before, you know. But even if you reach a certain point that people can see like, oh, well, nothing could happen to her because she's already so successful. You know, there are other things that come up that if you do choose to share it, it just opens you up to so much more impact of people that you don't even know you would have that connection with, and that they could learn from how you overcame what you overcame as well. Yeah.
I think our stories are so important to helping others move through what they are experiencing in life. And I'm a firm believer that as difficult as our challenges are, they are meant to form us and shape us. And we talked about this a little bit before the show started, but they're also not all about you. Yes, you're the one going through them, but they're meant to help other people. So when we can acknowledge the trauma or the challenge, whatever it is we've gone through, and get past that, and then be able to speak about it, you have no idea who you're able to touch. And I made a note while you were talking, Holly. I remember when I was on your podcast and you talked about pivotal moments, and I talked about one in my life that I had not shared.
I remember this. Yes.
I had never shared that moment in my life when I was 12 years old, and I had gone through that experience of being shot at and having my life kind of go through before me really quickly. And I never thought that was something that I wanted to talk about, because it was an experience that I had kind of tucked away. And I didn't think that it was something I wanted to share. There are much like what you said, there are other things that I've been through in life that were very, very difficult times. I went through an abusive relationship in my first marriage, and there was a lot of verbal abuse and a little bit of physical abuse. And I remember thinking, I'll never tell my kids about this. I'll never share this with anyone. I'm just going to keep it tucked away. And I started finding opportunities were coming for me to share. And by holding back, I was holding back the opportunity to help other people. And I prayed about it, and I learned to release and to start sharing. And I would have so many women come to me and say, I'm so glad that you shared that. You shared what I went through or what I've been going through. And to hear you talk about it helped me to realize that I need to value who I am, and I don't have to remain in toxicity, and I can move beyond that and have a life after. So, you know, you're really hitting home with the things that you're saying. And it's so important to understand in our self-worth and our own self-value, right? Because we don't want to share those stories because we believe that somehow they devalue who we are as human beings and how we show up and what we have to bring forth. And the truth is, they don't devalue us. They make us that much stronger.
Absolutely. Yes. I love what you just said. And I'm having a moment because it came over me what you just shared. And yet mine was very long ago, but I never even wanted my children to know.
Yeah.
And it was a really, really violent, abusive relationship. I mean, he had hoped I would be left to die. I was beaten so badly. And yet I can look at you right now and say, you don't need to be perfect to be priceless.
Right.
And it was in my brokenness that God's light could shine through me. And it took me a long time to realize that. So, you know, feeling that shame and feeling like, why would we want anybody to know this? Like I said, why would all these global clients of mine want to buy damaged goods? Actually, it went the absolute opposite. They were like, oh, we want more. We want more. You're human. People need to see human beings and overcoming things, Reg. And Reg, as you were sharing, and I'll always remember, because you both have been on my show, and I've so loved being able to celebrate people like you and all over the world. But you know, I do the show with my eyes closed, right? Because there's no scripts.
Yeah.
And it was, I can remember sitting here when you were sharing that story, and then the few more that came out during that conversation. And you know, to both of you, I feel like that's one of the missions you're on right now. It's about Act Now. It's about helping people. We're all in a dark corner. We've all been there. And sometimes you feel you're all alone, right? Like you're the only one living in that dark closet thinking the abuse is only happening to me or whatever's happening in your life. And when you hear that someone like you and whatever, people, they go, oh, you too, right? And you can overcome this and you can still come out ahead and shine. That's what gives hope. So yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how
I have tears and goosies. And so you guys have to excuse me.
Oh, we love you, Reg.
Yeah, no,
I
every
love
time
you.
Holly talks, I get goosebumps every time she puts out one of her quotes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember that, you know, and just, yeah. Oh, wow. You know, and it gets easier, right? I mean, I feel like holding back, you know, you thought it was easier. You have to get over that hump of seeing that and accepting and believing that your own story that you're owning is actually going to help somebody else, because it's not about you anymore. You've already lived through it. So now it's time to share that. And I feel like these decisions get easier and easier to be able to open yourself up because you already know that. I mean, there's a little more of a snippet with you because you've seen it already happen, that if you do have something that you're going through again and somebody asks you about it, I mean, do you guys agree? Do you feel like it's a little bit easier when somebody asks you to share something and, you know, you're not so much taken aback, but think, yeah, because I don't know who this is going to help, but why not? You know, I mean, how do you guys feel about that?
I 100% agree. And I'd love to hear from, Reg. I mean, I think it just gets more and more and easier and easier. And like, if there's any listeners that are watching right now and they've put any questions or in the questions or anything, I think it's really important I want everyone to know you're not alone. Look at the three of us right now, willing to say, we're peeling back the layers of the onion. What can we do to give you hope on this day and in this moment? Because there's a reason you joined. And sometimes you're scared to death to ask the question, but ask it. And we're all three willing to be brave, right? And I always say it's time to get out of fear and into faith. And it feels icky and it can be really scary. And then when you do, don't you just feel this liberation and you just feel, right, Reg?
Yes. There's a certain level of freedom. And what I realized was that in being transparent and sharing, not only was I helping others, but to your point, Holly, I was helping myself heal, but not just heal. I was helping to discover who I really was. And authenticity is so important to me. And now I can show up confidently and share those stories and talk about what I might have experienced and not worry about it at all. It's not my concern now what other people think about me, because that's another thing. Because of the verbal abuse that I went through, I was a people pleaser, and I always was concerned about almost like being perfect in everything that I did. And I finally was able to, years later, mind you, many, many years later, this was a journey, but I finally came to a point where I was able to let go of all of that and just be myself. And part of it came from authentically sharing and transparently sharing some of those stories from my life.
Yeah.
And look at you now, and look at the two of you bringing this synergy to the world, right? And you know, Natalie, you said something earlier, and you asked, I mean, I'll share anything. You can ask me anything else. I want you to know, you mentioned how meeting both Reg and I, and at these women's events, and even the elite retreat, which you did take a leap of faith, and that was a very handpicked group of people, and you had no idea what the agenda was because I wasn't telling you. And I love that you remember that, because that was like, oh, how am I going to do this? It was like, it's called an agenda. You brought up something, though, that I don't want anybody to miss. To me, I believe in the highest level of divine serendipity, and you follow the nudge. You know, part of that getting quiet every morning at our retreat was there's so much noise around us that we can get caught up in the chaos and the noise. And it's time to stop listening to everyone else. And I'm going to say this because, you know, I love this. It's time to stop shoulding on yourselves. That's SHOULD, right? And give yourself space and silence to listen to the wisdom coming from within. And when you begin to do that, you'll get the nudge to know, you know when to say yes. You didn't know why you were at either of those events, but you said yes. And look how your life has transformed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like knowing when to say yes and walk through that door with a complete no idea what's about to happen.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Yeah. And that's the power of faith too, right? It's having faith. And you know, I'm one of those people, I listen to my intuition a lot. It's that nudge. I get quiet and I hear from within, and I trust that. I didn't always trust it. I trust it now though. And I will go and do things. I have no idea why I'm supposed to go. I might spend my last dime on it, but if I believe that that's what I'm supposed to do, by God, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to enjoy the experience.
Yeah. Amen, sister. Yeah. That's all I can say.
So Holly was a entertainer and like a cruise ship director, right?
Oh yes, do you know that story? Do you know?
I do know that story.
I know that story too. I've heard
it. So you know, I want to talk a little bit more about, you know, where you were and how your confidence in your self-worth took you into getting out on stage and really helping businesses grow, and your topics and things that you talk about when you're hired to speak or hired to do even these virtual events that we are right now, because you're probably not traveling as much, but you know, you were in a different space. How did you take the jump from where you were to where you are right now? You know, what kind of action steps did you take, and did you have to believe in yourself in order to get you to where you are right now?
Well, you have no idea what you just asked, because it wasn't that long ago that I was asked a similar question. And I might even take my headset off for a minute because I have to show you something. Okay. But before I get to that, because that's really important, and I love that you're asking it, when you mentioned the cruise director thing, I want everyone to hear this. I was the little overweight, shy girl in 3rd grade living in Pennsylvania, and our only TV was in the basement. And I remember, and this is going to date me, but for those of you that can relate, I remember Friday nights, I couldn't wait to sit by myself and watch Love Boat and Fantasy Island.
Yeah, me too.
Right? And the reason that's so important is you see this shy, overweight little girl in 3rd grade. I watched that show and I dreamed of being Julie. I know that sounds crazy to people, but we all have butterflies on our shoulders, and they've been there since we were little. And with no bad, I don't want to believe the world intends to do it maliciously, but through life, we kind of lose the butterflies, we lose our dreams. And that dream stuck with me, even all the way through college, when I thought I should be an attorney and was starting pre-law, and I couldn't do it. I hated it. And that's a whole story, but I called home and said, I'm going to travel the world. And my beautiful Persian father, all I heard him say was in dead silence was, on my dead body, finish your school, get your degree. All right, I'll go still travel the world. So, but I figured out, it took 6 months of going through the backs of magazines. And I always say, tell me no, watch me go, is the mantra that came from that experience. Because every person I met with, from travel agents, I sent hot pink resumes. Everybody I talked to said it'll never happen and gave me all the excuses. And I did end up becoming Julie, and I did make it happen. And so it's something that I want everyone to know. It's never too late to dream. So that in itself, but fast forward, Natalie, to what I wanted to give a little anchor around that, because that was one of those dreams that when you never give up and you want it bad enough, right, ladies, you know?
Yes.
I didn't let the world take me on a detour and just stuck with that nudge, Reg. And it gave me so much belief that I can do something if I want it bad enough. And that was before all the dark stuff happened. So fast forward to, hold on, I have to grab something to show you, okay? Hang with me, hang on. You'll understand it, you'll love it.
This is powerful because
So I'm showing you a little Ziploc baggie that I don't really show people very often. And this little Ziploc baggie holds in it sacred letters and cards. I love handwritten cards over the years, right? We all have the thing that makes us feel special. And if you look close, there's a little handwritten letter, and it's lined paper. I'll take it out here in a moment. So fast forward to when I was coming out of a really bad situation and a bad relationship. And I'm now living in Denver, Colorado, and I'm in a women's kind of a Bible study type group, and hadn't really talked about that time in my previous relationship, and was sharing this in a very sacred, small group of women. And this woman just looks at me and she said, would you be willing to come share your story with my high school students? I'm a high school public school teacher.
Oh, wow.
And I just looked at her startled. I go, you really want me to tell you what I just told you to these high school students? She goes, as a matter of fact, how soon can you come? They need to hear this.
Wow.
And I was not, right? You know how it is. It's like the three of us talking, sharing something and never realizing it. So I said yes, got a little outfit on, went to that school. They had combined 2 classrooms of high school students, and it was in a public school district in a kind of a tough area of town. And I shared my story about having dreams and goals and about putting them under the pillow and then ending up in a really bad relationship that almost took my life. And I said, are you sure you want me to tell you what I was told every day? And she said, I want you to be real. What happened that day, Natalie and Reg, is that a line of students stood there, boys and girls, young men, young women, with tears rolling down their face, wanting to talk. And a young man stood there and he grabbed my hands and he said, you have no idea how much I need to hear this. I don't want to be like what my dad's doing to my mom. I never want to do this. And I needed to hear this. So I heard from many kids. The teacher called me the next day and had a young lady in the class had handed her a 2-page written letter that I still carry around. See, it's tethered. Look at Natalie's face. She's never seen this.
Wow.
When you wonder if you're doing the right thing and you wonder what your soul's purpose is, trust in the moment. Just back to saying yes. I was scared to death to talk to these kids, but this young lady wrote a letter that she handed to that teacher. And long story short, that young lady that day had it all planned to go home after school and take her life.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
She had been being sold for cocaine by her father, for prostitution to her uncles. She had been trafficked long enough. There was nothing left of her. And she had it all planned to go home that day and take her life. And she said in that moment, it was one moment that gave her hope that God did put her here for a reason. And there must be something special about her. And she wrote a 2-page letter to thank me because that day saved her life. And I want you to know this is not about Holly. It wasn't about me. It was saying yes and being a messenger and sharing something that I was scared to death to talk about. So I carry this in my little Ziploc baggie. And when I'm usually on the road traveling all the time and out home, this is with me in my computer case with me all the time. I sit on a plane and I read this and I think, you know, God, if one person in this ballroom's life can be impacted, then it was why I was here. So you don't know that story. And I didn't realize we were going to share that, but you asked something and it's sitting over there.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm so speechless. I'm just like, and it goes back to like what you said. I mean, trusting that it's not about you anymore. You know, I think that you were chosen to, or you weren't chosen, but you went through what you went through, but you were chosen to then speak to whoever it was. And if you just say yes and just show up, you're going to impact somebody that you don't even know. That's the one thing that I constantly live my life about is that you don't even know who you're going to meet or who is listening on the other side. The people that are watching now, I don't know who they are. I'm not too sure who's watching right now. I can see that there are people watching, but I'm hoping that you're here for a reason. And I'm hoping that you learn about this, because I just feel like this issue of this topic that we're talking about with self-worth and just your value. I think that a lot of people, the very first thing they think about is, I'm not good enough to do blank, or to do that blank, or to show up and speak, or whatever it is. And I mean, Holly, you are the spitting image of, where you were. You just started to share your story. Now you're sharing your story, but you're inspiring so many. And I want to just say, it's not even, conferences of women. It is businesses and corporations. Men and women. So even as a woman, and everything that you went through, is still being able to be taught in a way that you're able to reach both men and women that need to look at, how they're developing relationships in business, how they're developing relationships with supervisors, or with people that they have to supervise, whatever it is. I think it's super important. And I love that it's so applicable as well.
I love that you said that, because it's really important to know that this is non-gender. Everything is about women and men. And yeah, most of my audiences in the corporate arena, let's face it, a lot of them are leaders being brought together, right, for a big annual event. And I look out at the audience and I'm like, can the few women please stand up? I've got like a whole bunch of CEOs in a room from around the world. And I'm like, it's a lot of men, but those men will stand there and wait to share something, and with their own tears running down their face. And and you asked me earlier, like, what is the element of probably all of what I share, and what keeps me, the cool thing is, I have no agent, right? This, Natalie, no speakers bureau. I still don't have a best-selling book. It's my favorite inspirations. And yet booked out for a couple years in advance, and it's all referral. It's all referral, because if you're put here and you understand what you are meant to do, and it's about serving others, when you get out of self and you find a way to serve others, amazing, miraculous, and magical things will happen. And so it doesn't matter where I am, people think, what's the secret unlock to leadership? Because that's kind of what I've begun. That's kind of my signature. And I'm always like, you know what? It's going from here to here.
To heart.
Yep. Stop treating people as knowledge banks and treat them as human beings. And it's really that simple. And we just needed to be reminded. So, I mean, it's amazing. I would never have imagined that and you asked how it all went from, so that school experience, that high school, I guess it went viral, and the principal asked if I could come speak at an assembly.
Oh, wow.
And would I be willing to speak to all the high schoolers, and would it be okay if they brought their parents or invited them?
Wow.
And that's what catapulted, as I say, this business kind of found me. Because, parents were standing there with their cards, and a gentleman from IBM said, have you ever thought about speaking in the corporate arena? People need to hear your story, but I think there's a lot of wisdom, and, so that's kind of, in a very nutshell, how that escalated.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Holly, because I do something similar. I work with young adults. We've talked about that, and I share stories, and I have been able to see some things happen in their lives, some major shifts, and that's amazing. My question for you is, are there ever days where you feel just a little bit depleted? Like, am I able to go on? Can I continue to do this? And then how do you get yourself out of that? Because, we all kind of experience that. I know there are days that I experience that, but what takes me back is the fact that I know if I can change just one life, if I can deposit a seed of positivity in one person and they receive it and it begins to grow, then it's all worth it. I'm reminded in that moment, this is what I went through, all of the things that I went through for, and this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I don't get to sit and have a pity party. I get to acknowledge the fact that I may have a down day, or I'm not as up as I normally am. but I know that I have to get up and keep going the next day. And then, somehow, well, not somehow, people know that my faith is very strong. I know that it's the grace of God that in his mercy that gets me back up and reminds me that this is part of my calling and part of my purpose. And that in that, I'm going to find my energy, even if I feel depleted. So I wanted to ask you that question and have you share with everyone, how do you get yourself through that?
Well, I have to say almost ditto, because yes, I will tell you, last year, my health hit an all-time roadblock because I'd been on the road so much, doing what I love, but doing it at the extent that I was not taking care of Holly. And when I say that, I don't just mean physically, everyone. I mean spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically exhausted. And it ended up a scare, but everything was fine. It was pure exhaustion. And I had to really get really serious about, I have boundaries I've put into place. I have some rituals I'd love to share with everyone, because it really has empowered me and brought my health back. Which, when I say health, I'm not just talking physical, remember, because it's the whole being. The psychological stuff, gang, manifests physically.
Yes, it does.
It does. And
Yes.
if you are not right, whatever your spiritual walk is, if you don't have one, I beg you to find one, because it is my faith that has filled me up and kept me going. And there are days when there was nothing left of me. And so, Reg, to what you just asked, I have 4 things that are in place in my life that are the most important ritual. It's my morning. Nobody gets it. My precious husband even knows, even if he gets up early, he does not interrupt that space. He will wait and he will come join me. But it's because for me, the spiritual thing is the most important food for my soul. I need my silence. I have my prayer time. I have favorite things I read, devotionals, inspirational for my soul. And that's part of this. So it's my spiritual. And then I write. I have a journal, as to Natalie attested earlier. Please write, just even if you write for a few minutes. And don't even write with an expectation. Yeah. Like, I'll ask myself, I'll close myself and just my eyes and just say, what do I need to know today?
Yeah.
And pause, right? And then I'll write, and then it's my physical. So it's spiritual. And then I always take care of myself physically, no matter where I am in the world, whether it's a walk in the rain or I can get in my pool, something. I mean, I'm not a big go to the gym person. I like to do things on my own at home. And then emotionally, I make sure that I look at my day, and I need to know that I have intentionally put on my day, I'm not overwhelmed. I don't have too many calls, and I have been very intentional about having something put that's going to bring me joy. So that is either a phone call like this. I'm so excited to be with you guys. It brings me joy. And this is a sacred day for many of us, right? It's a Sunday. But choose joy. So I do that. So that's really important to me. And it's made the difference, Reg, to pull me up and keep me going. And I'm not sure if you know this, but my mother just passed recently. It'll be 5 weeks ago tomorrow morning.
Oh, I didn't know.
And I just beg everyone, please take COVID seriously, because she passed from COVID and it went very fast. And with all of that, I know where she is, because she was a woman of amazing faith. Does that mean it hasn't caused, I've been gentle with myself. I cry when I need to cry. I pray. All of that said, I've still had to deliver some big events for clients. And, I need to know that this isn't about Holly. I'm still serving, and let the spirit and my soul take over and guide what that client needs to know. And that is how I've been able to pull myself together, Reg, in the last month, when I thought there's no way I can do this. Yeah. Lordy, you have no idea.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I love and prayers over you and your family. And there is something just heartwarming knowing that even though you've lost someone physically here, that they had a strong faith, then you know that they're going somewhere where they will be well. And it's very difficult to stay focused in those times, but I agree that having those rituals that you stay true to, because they're true to you, they help you. I think that's such, Natalie mentioned that you would be dropping value bombs. That is definitely one. Knowing how to have boundaries and to create those sacred spaces for yourself so that you can maintain balance in your own life. I've learned that over the last few years. It's so important to your peace and your joy, because things are going to happen constantly around you. But the way that you maintain that peace and joy is, it really comes back to knowing who you are and what you've established for yourself as boundaries and things to do to keep that peace and joy. And I know for me, that's also grounded in faith and spirituality. And journaling is so important. Natalie knows that. I talk about journaling constantly.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that you say, I just want to add this, because those rituals have saved my life and my soul. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to lie to anybody or kid you. These last few weeks have been challenging. And some days, ladies, that's the only thing I can get done. But I don't miss it. And I don't let it get taken away from me. And so you just said, you know, some of those things that are really important. I would love to offer everyone a new thought process. We spend a lot of time thinking about the definition of success. And I'm not a fan of that phrase. I personally feel it's a definition of happiness.
Yes.
And when your definition of happiness aligns to your core values, not the world's definition of what they think you should want to do, but when you really can take the time to not worry about everybody else and figure out your core values and your definition of happiness, your success comes, because success is not all material. It's about knowing how you're giving back. It's just like the two of you sharing with me how you planned this business together. And it was the two of you having such aligned values about giving back to the world. I love that. And see, that's a ritual. You stuck to your values. I told you I'm going to celebrate you. You can't get out of it.
We can't get away from it. Oh, I love it though. I mean, you two are probably two of the most special women in my life. And again, you know, it was a result of just putting yourself out there and listening to what people are telling you and believing in yourself. And I think that's the whole topic about self-worth and your value. I think that having these people around you, putting yourself out there, defining your happiness, which is what Holly just said, you know, so that you can be the most authentic person that you can be, then your ability to focus on life or to focus on others just comes naturally, because you're able to give from that part of yourself that's right here in your heart. And so I've learned that from both of you. I am so thankful for both of you just being on this journey and you both being a part of my life. I mean, I can't even, I can just sit here and gush.
Because we can do that on you, Natalie.
Yes,
and
we can.
You are one of the most beautiful beings, this light around you. You can see it right now, even when we're sitting here. And you're always thinking about, I know you have a beautiful husband and you have these two beautiful, brilliant children and this wonderful business. And yet you're always thinking beyond that. Like your heart has always been pulled to, how can I keep serving the world? And that is why your world will always have a element of, you will be living a happy life, because you've got really clear on your definition of happiness. And you kind of had to let go of worrying about what those people back at that group or that medical group would be thinking, right? I mean, when we can finally let go. Yeah. And I'll tell you something, I'll be bold, because I don't know if you know, well, I think you might know this because it's coming, but the Hollyism book, right? I just did that because people were asking, right? Like, how do we get more inspiration after we're done hearing you speak? So I put together my favorite inspirations, put it in a little book. Well, I'm taking an even bigger, bolder step. And I was a little scared, ladies. I'm not going to kid you, but a couple months ago, it was just kind of like, you know, people are always asking, I need more inspiration. How can I get that? And I thought, do we dare? Do I do an app? What if we just do an app and it's a daily dose of inspiration? Well, not only it's happening and it's getting ready to be launched. And you know what happens when you trust? That was a God-given inspiration and nudge. And the man, that this amazing, young, brilliant man that has been with me and our team forever, his name is Tony, and he handles my website. I set up a call to talk. Okay, this is going to give you goofies. I set up a call to talk to him because I said, I really have something I want to run by you, and I'd love to get your thoughts. And we get on this call. And he goes, before you do, can I just tell you that when you sent me this text, I was waiting for you to get off the road, because this was end of February, March. He goes, because I have this idea I've been dying to share with you. And I was hoping to have a call with you next week. And I go, He goes, I wonder if we're on the same path. And then I said, what do you think? And he's never demonstrative, like with his emotions. He goes, Holly, I'm getting goosies. This is exactly what I wanted to tell you. It's time to do an app. And my gift to you is I want to do it for you.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
That's exciting.
See how God works? Because he's like, this is the gift I want to give you, because it's time to give people who never get to experience it around the world. So all of that is just because I want you to know, when we say yes to the nudges, as you say, those inner nudges, you have no idea what's about to happen. Just like the two of you coming together to write a book, and now look at what you're doing, right, in this world.
Yeah.
So that's true. You
I
never
hope
know.
your voice is on that app.
Oh, it is. It's all
like I can just wake up to, I could just hear her. And I hope that there's a way to personalize it, because I can just see it going, Natalie. Natalie.
No,
actually, Natalie on my shoulder. Oh my gosh. And I could just see, yes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Holly's waking me up.
I already love you for that, because I'm going to put you on the beta group. We're doing a small family friend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you and Reg are part of that, because Natalie, you already just gave us an idea. Tony's going to go, I love that idea.
Yep. And I would set it in my alarm, and it would go off, and it would just be my little nudge from Holly every day. Whenever I said it. Yeah. That'd be so awesome. Oh my gosh. Yes. Our Elite Retreat girls are going to go haywire over that.
And what an amazing bond of friendships. These women did not know each other from anybody. They've come together. They are a sisterhood that is so bonded and so close. And I love that, Natalie. Well, I just adore you both. And I told you before we got on, I really want you to tell me what I can do to support you. And all you have to do is tell me. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, Holly.
Absolutely.
This has been a joy just listening to you. I love hearing the wisdom that you share, and your Hollyisms. Anything that we can do. I think being beta testers of your app that helps us more than it helps you. But anything that we can do to help support what you're doing, please let us know at any time. We're here.
Yes. And we're so thankful that you joined us today.
Yes.
If you want to reach out to Holly, learn a little bit more about her, I've put that website up there. It's also in our post so that you can click on her website. She's doing some amazing things. If you have a company that wants to hire her, or even wants to attend one of her retreats that she's having as well, I would highly recommend it. As you can tell, everybody needs a Holly in their life. And, she's right there in front of you. So connect to her. I can't even, like I said, I'm just going to sit here and gush about her the whole time. So I'm so thankful that she is a part of our show, and that she was able to share, the steps that she took in taking action to really own her self-worth. She's got a lot of stories, but to be able to know that it isn't, even though you're owning your self-worth, that it really isn't about you, but it's how you spread that story and how you spread what you can, and to share that with others, that actually gives back to you to believe in yourself a little bit more, and how you yourself are going to be able to reach someone that you don't know even right now at this moment. So we want to just thank you guys for tuning in, and reach out to Holly. And, we're thankful that she could join us today. And
thank
you, Holly.
Honored. Love you. Okay.
Love you too.
Yeah, and we'll be back next week, you guys. Same time at 3:00 p.m. at Pacific Standard Time, 4:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, on our new episode of Act Now Live. And so we'll see you next week.
See ya. Bye.